Ladies and gents, Seahawks fans of all ages, football is back. Pre-season football, but no one cares. Football is back. Thank the Lord. We're the 12 Talk podcast. If you're joining us for this live, thank you very much. If you're not, if you're watching this later on, thank you very much indeed. Anyway, we're going to be going through the 16-3 win for the Seahawks against the Chargers. We've got some big news for the pod that we'd like you all to know. If you've not checked it out on socials, you'll hear about it today. We'll be looking at the big plays of the game. We'll be looking at some positives, some negatives, and then we'll be taking your questions, popping up on the screen, and any comments as well, and we'll let you have your say. But for now, let's get it down. And there we go, back into it. Well, I guess we'll start with the big news for us as a pod anyway. As you may have seen from the revamped intro, we have been asked by the UK Seahawkers to be their official podcast. Massive shock to both Mitch and I, but we're honoured. And hopefully we will do the UK Seahawkers proud. We are proud members ourselves. I rock the C Jack back there, every single one. But should we get into it, Mitch? Let's start, Mitch. How are you doing? We have to do our meet and greets every now and again, you know, just check in with each other.
Yeah, no, I'm very good. Very good. I've been looking forward to this weekend all week. Pleased to have football back. It's good for my sanity to always have a game on the horizon. I hate bye weeks for that reason. To get that, I'm already moaning about a bye week.
We're not even you don't care about play instead.
Yeah, true. No, and I'm very, very pleased with overall with what we saw last night as well. Without being too sort of carried away, pretty pleased. I don't think we know what to expect when we change every coach and have such a churn of new players coming in. Anything that resembles some kind of organisation and structure is a great start, and I think we saw loads of it. So
yeah, agreed. I mean, I was so excited about last night. I went out and got myself my beers ready. I went for the full American experience of ribs and chicken wings. I was absolutely buzzing for it until the second half kicked off. My daughter woke up and decided that she didn't want to go back to sleep. So fun times. But yeah, apart from that, I think it's the start of it, everyone. If you want to get your comments in or your questions, by all means, let us know. We'll get to a lot of them at the end, unless it's something that we're going to be talking about anyway. But the Seahawks kicked off their pre-season with a 16-3 win over the Chargers. Now, I'm not sure what anyone thought was going to happen. I didn't expect the score to be that low from the Chargers, if I'm being completely honest. That was my biggest surprise. What did you think of it, Mitch? We'll go into the little nitty-gritty bits in a bit, but overall,
yeah, I mean, we have to caveat the whole pod really with the fact that they didn't have a quarterback on the field that is likely to see snaps, barring a catastrophe this year. Which hopefully is also true for us too.
Easton Stick is not an NFL quarterback.
Well, yeah, kind of is what I'm saying. Well, but I will say that there was some talent out there from the Chargers that was notable, as there was for us in the first quarter. And of course, some of our players stayed out there and felt like they were sort of needing to show something. So we got a good look at personnel and scheme. I think it was really it was revealing, but I also feel like we only saw what they wanted us to see at the same time. So yeah, really, we kind of, the curtains haven't been pulled back. They've kind of just been sort of
Little peek.
parted. Yeah, we've had a little peek. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. Very, it's whet my appetite. Let's put it that way. It's whet my appetite.
Yeah, my appetite is duly whetted as well, because did you like the whet? From what we did see, there was a lot to really like. You know, we'll get onto the big play shortly, but there was some fantastic shifts in the offense, just moving players around, and then after you've moved to wide receivers and your tight ends, actually handing the ball off to a running back, which I found quite interesting. We also had the sort of the defense. It looked like they were playing a pretty much standard 4-man front a lot of the time. But then every now and again, you'd see, like you say, there'd be 7 at the line, or there'd be a linebacker stood right by the defensive, like the DT, which was it was so refreshing. If I'm being completely honest, rather than just a standard. It's a 3-4. We've got 2 outside linebackers stood up on the edge, or it's a 4-3, or yeah, it's trying to, what's going to be key for us and what's going to be interesting for us and every 12 watching this is working out if we can find any patterns in what Mike Mac's doing. And I'm just going to put this for Gary. Thank you very much for joining in. Gary says his appetite is soaking, not just wet, it is soaking.
He is very much dribbling on his shirt, I think. He needs a bib. I'm on a bib.
That's just a Tommy Tippy. There you go. Catch it all, mate. But yeah, I think with that, it showed some good endeavour, even though it's not showed us a full playbook. But if we want to talk playbook, let's talk big plays. The 2 big ones for me, well, there's a couple, but shall we start with the scoring plays, Mitch?
Yeah, let's do that. The first one was the Brady Russell touchdown, right? That was before the running touchdown. Yeah, I really liked what I saw from Brady Russell, and I also hated it in the respect that AJ Barner was my guy, and I now start to get an idea of why why he's not sort of up a bit higher on the depth chart. And I mean, at the end of the day, if he's further down the depth chart because other players are shining, I'm fine with it. And the thing about Brady Russell's touchdown is he's received the ball, not a brilliant throw. It was slightly behind him because he's turned to catch it, I believe. And as he's turned back, he's juked the first tackle and sort of broken through it. Yeah, exactly. So he's dodged. He's broken or dodged contact twice, and then made up what 12 more yards and dived into the end zone, approximately. So the throw plus the yards after contact or after dodging those tackles, the total's about 20 yards. Punching the ball in like that, that's something we'd expect to see from JSN or DK Metcalf or Noah Fant. To see it from tight end 3, it looked polished as well. It wasn't sort of fortuitous. He didn't sort of stumble through. He received it and immediately went into second gear, and that really impressed me. It didn't look like a guy who didn't have any NFL starts.
I agreed. I was very impressed. I was also a bit bewildered because even though he's 6'3", he looks really short for a tight end. And 6'3", let's face it, is quite short for a tight end. So where you're possibly worried about Barner not getting on, is Russell someone you could sneak on as a fullback?
Well, we did, right? He saw some play in the second half, I believe, as an H-back. And I do think there's a role there for him. I think there's a number of candidates for that role, actually, but I do think there's a role there for him. But the play itself, staying on the play itself, I thought it was a really, really great moment for him because he's been on our practice squad for, 2 seasons now?
Yeah.
Been called up to a match day 53 a few times. Hasn't seen any sort of noticeable game time. So superb to show it when he's under the lights, and great. No one expected it.
No, and that was the thing. It's like you said. I think without the bias of the previous coaching staff now, these players who may have been fringe practice squad are getting a serious look. So if someone like Brady Russell keeps putting up good performances during the preseason, Mike Grubb are going to look at him and go, we can use that. As opposed to someone who, may have been on the roster previously or on the bubble. So Tyler Mabry, I'm still not sure if he's cleared out his flat above the VMAC, but he seems to be there every single year on the practice squad. And then we'll bring him up, and he scored a touchdown last year, but then he disappears back off into obscurity. So let's see what happens with the shake-up. We've got the second touchdown as well, which was the George Halani touchdown. Now, I just want to delve into the George Halani bit, because I was really interested to see the McIntosh Halani dynamic in this game, because they fed McIntosh in those first 2 quarters, so much so that I thought, oh wow, maybe they've actually got more belief in him than they've let on. But then when it got down to sort of the red zone, they gave it to Halani and just let him work the outside and go straight for the pylon, which, fair play, it was a fantastic touchdown from a rookie, an undrafted rookie.
Yeah.
But
one thing. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say one thing that I thought while we were watching it was I felt like both running backs were being used in the way that Charbonnet and Walker will be used. It was like they were plays drawn up for their closest fit. It was almost like an audition. Can you be Ken Walker's backup? Can you, if we send you to the outside, can you run this in for a touchdown in the red zone? If we send you up the gut, we get the big men to move and create a gap for you. Can we send you through there and can you be physical and go up the gut? And we saw a lot of that. Like we saw, and you have to excuse me because I can't remember the guy's name. The guy with the dreadlocks. I know he was an undrafted free agent.
Colby Lewis.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
I am Colby Lewis.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. He was brilliant at that, actually. So it felt like it was almost a trial of the system as well as it was a showcase of the depth chart when it came to the running backs. Do you see what I mean? It's almost like a trialing of a prototype and testing the level of the depth, which might be a little bit disrespectful because McIntosh was highly regarded coming out of college, and talking about him now as competing for running back 3 or 4 is fairly unthinkable when you look at his body of work that he put in college. But it is where he finds himself. He was a low end draft pick, and he fell down the boards. There should be a chip on his shoulder, and he is having to prove himself from the bottom up.
Still baffled that he was a fantastic running back at Georgia, and then he dropped so far down the draft that I think even he was probably going, what have I done to deserve this? I come from a pedigree football college. I put up fantastic numbers, put up some fantastic runs and plays, and I'm dropping to sort of with this 7th round we got him. Like,
yes,
how?
I think it was, and maybe it was 7th, wasn't it? Because we ended up with 2 7ths, I think.
Now he's having to fight it out with an undrafted free agent, which is But then Halani goes and does something like he just did. I've just got to say, as we're live, Gary, you are on it. It was the 7th. Gary confirms he is. If we ever need any facts checking, we know Gary's going to be doing it on this pod.
Good to have Strato in the background. I like it.
Anyone else that's watching as well, if you think of anything, by all means, pop it in there. We're going to get to them as quickly as possible. Any of the pressing questions, we are going to have a full segment at the end. But yeah, I'm still. It's going to take a couple more games for me to get my head around who I prefer, Halani or McIntosh. I thought McIntosh ran a lot more through the A and B gap and made some good hard yards with it. I didn't see Halani do it as much. But yeah, that was just one passing touchdown, one running touchdown, one extra point, and one field goal. Should we talk about Jason Myers?
I'm a fan, so it's difficult for me to it's difficult for me to be too critical. But if you're going to miss one in the first preseason game, right? Hopefully that's the last one. It felt weird to see him slice it across the front from where he was kicking. Like, he's usually so reliable with that, but I don't know. Frustrating one. I really, with the money we're paying him, I don't want to see misses like that.
Well, we were saying it with Charlie, previous guest of the show, on our Discord last night as the game was going live. We were on our Discord having a chat, and I think everyone's overly enamored with Myers because he's the best kicker we've had since Hauschka. Because you look at the myriad of kickers we've had.
Blair Walsh.
Blair Walsh. We had Janikowski. Yeah,
the big
kicker who looks like a lineman. In his day was excellent, but we got him as sort of a final payday. But now we've got Myers, who has had some fantastic seasons, has really, really earned the paycheck he's got. But as I said last night, when he's on form, he looks like the pay that we're giving him is a bargain.
Yeah.
When he has his off days, of which they're pretty plentiful, you start wondering why he's being paid anything with $1 million in it.
Yeah, and that's the frustration. There are 2 or 3 extremely good kickers in our league, and then there's a club just behind them. You know, the non-world class tier, that sort of elite tier behind the world class tier, and he's definitely in that group. Whether the amount we pay him is too much is another question for another pod. But yeah, I was upset to see that, but I don't want to dwell on it too much. It didn't affect anything. When your opponent only scores 3 points in a game, you can miss it. You can miss an extra point. I'm not going to be mad.
I'm just going to pull this up from Gary again with the very, very deep cut here, talking about Norm Johnson as a kicker for the Seahawks. What I don't even know what years Norm Johnson was. Go on, Gary. It's going to be a race of who knows this. Norm Johnson, Seahawks, 82 to 90. Well, there's a reason I didn't know the years.
That one.
Yeah. Because when he first got drafted, I wasn't even a twinkle in my dad's eye. So, sorry to make you feel old there, Gary, but yeah. But there you go. That is the input we want from the people that are watching this. Other big plays defensively.
Yeah, loads.
I want to start with Tyrell Dodson.
Yeah, okay.
And that absolute banger at the line of scrimmage. I have a feeling if he plays like that, he is going to be on my "Here Comes the Boom" segment weekly.
Yeah, and do you know what? It wasn't just the physicality of that hit. It was the scrape. It was the fact that he's moved along the back of that line, waited to see where the fit was, shot through that gap, met the guy at the line, stopped it. How many times did we see Bobby Wagner having to mop up because too much was? We had a porous line, and we were reacting to things. This was anticipation combined with reaction, finished off with physicality, and it was so tantalizing. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I need more of that. And yeah, Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner were excellent in their sort of forte fields. I don't know if it's the scheme. It probably is actually more to do with the scheme, but giving Dodson that sort of free license to sniff things out and be amongst it on the line of scrimmage and run stuff like that was fantastic. So Huge play, as you say, and I loved it. It was great.
First one for me. Another big defensive play. Go on, Mitch.
Byron
You're
Murphy?
pretty.
Byron
That's
Murphy,
one of them.
or
Let's go with Byron Murphy to start with.
yeah, so similar sort of situation. So running back trying to get through the A gap. Byron Murphy is engaged with either the right guard or the center, moving to his left. The running back tries to shoot that gap. He instantly comes off his block there with the center, assuming it was the center, not the guard, and then shuts the door on that. Not only shuts the door on the running back after tempting him through the A gap, lowers the shoulder and plants him for a loss of 1. Again, we've seen a lot of times a porous defensive line where we're stopping with committee, or we don't have the anticipation,
or we have a
we're not
rotating
at
door
all.
policy,
Yeah,
or revolving door. Just
agree. So he was aware of it. He allowed the play to develop the way that the center would want it to develop, and then as soon as the next phase of that play activated, straight off it, I know what's happening here, bang, planted him into the turf. It was extremely alert for a guy that was playing his first game in the NFL, albeit a preseason game. It was veteran-esque with the way he just let the center do what he wanted until it didn't suit him anymore, and he just went off and did his own thing. Yeah, it was entertain him, let him do his thing. Yeah, it was savvy.
For me, it was savvy. It was savvy, like you said, veteran play, where he's engaging with the offensive line, like, oh no, I can't get past. Oh, just waiting to see what develops. And as soon as he knows what's happening, it's like, you're gone, I'm there. It was, I think, to be honest, Murphy was. We'll get onto the positives and negatives, but he is. I don't know if he's on either of our list, but he's a massive positive for this.
Yeah,
some of the plays he had, the double teams he was drawing after sort of like 3 or 4 pressures at the line, they all went double team that man, and he was still.
It's a long day if they don't do it. Yeah,
and then he gets double teamed, and they have to tear his helmet off in order to stop him.
He was a handful, and I think the great thing about that is if you've got Big Cat there and Draymond Jones and Jaron Reed and Jonathan Hankins, it's a stacked line. They cannot do that with him. They can't just see a few plays and go, oh, well, he's getting double teamed. There is a lot of players to account for on that D line. So the fact that he's immediately requiring that kind of attention is fantastic. Honestly, that's fantastic. I really wanted to see him dealt with in that way, because it just points to the fact that we've picked up a guy who's going to be a factor.
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
It's going to be a factor. Yeah.
Away from Byron Murphy, before we start drooling as Gary is now, Kayvon Wallace laying the absolute wood on Hayden Hurst for the Kobe interception.
I didn't like it.
See, you both said this. However, like in the Discord, when you and Charlie were talking about it, I rewound it and I watched it. It was an awful pass from Stick. Hurst had made a football play to go and make the catch. The ball basically hit his fingertips, and then he got vaporized. I can't I can't see how there's anything wrong with it. If you're going to make that football play to reach for the ball, you actually make contact with the ball. Upon making contact with the ball, someone comes in and just takes you out in the rib cage. I'm sorry. That's the reason why quarterbacks wear the girdle.
Gary's dubbed it a hospital pass, and I completely agree. He was sold down the river by the quarterback. But I've watched it back as well. In real time, it looked reckless. When you watch it back, the timing of it is actually quite precise.
Reckless, yes, it was.
Well, yes, it did. you are absolutely right in what you say, in that the pass put him in a really vulnerable position. He's going up to make the play because he wants to seal a roster spot for himself. So he's getting after it. Kayvon Wallace is trying to get himself a roster spot, sees the opportunity to make a play on him once the ball's in the air and at his hands, and it creates. I mean, whether he would have tipped it regardless, because it wasn't exactly going in the breadbasket, was it? I just felt for a preseason game, I'd feel awful if that was one of our guys going up for a ball and he got absolutely steamrolled. But these guys are out there trying to seal roster spots, and if they start pulling out of tackles and they miss the squad, they have themselves to blame. So having watched it back, I kind of understand it a bit more. Just in real time, I thought that looked a real dirty hit. We've seen people.
It's a contact sport.
Yeah, but there are times,
regardless of pre-season. I'm sorry, I've got.
Yeah, but you're also a rugby fan. You're also a rugby fan, and it's we're used to seeing like no contact on players when they go up like that. For
yeah, but that's in the laws though. If someone's feet are off the ground in rugby,
yeah.
However, in American football, which is what we're watching and what we're commenting on, it is fair game. If you are going to be stupid enough to go up as a tight end, go, God, that ball's at least 7'8" in the air. I'll reach for that and just leave if I was there and tackling was always my bag, as everyone knows who listens to this pod, I will bang on about it, and I'll bang on about it later as well.
Yeah, Cam Chancellor wouldn't have pulled out of it, so why should Kayvon Wallace?
If you're going to give me that area, all of this, I am going to knock the wind out of you, potentially crack a rib, not on purpose, just with the sheer force that I'm going to hit you with, and I'm going to smile whilst doing it, because that is the game.
All right, psycho. No, but you're right. You are right. You are
working an office. I've got to get my aggression out somewhere.
As I say in Discord, my reaction at the time was very much just off that first real time replay. Watching it back, it was well timed. It was necessary. It was making a play which we cashed in on. All right. So yeah, no, I've got no problems with it. But it was a huge play. You are completely correct. And while we're talking about huge plays and coverage, Kobe Bryant targeted 3 times. Or was it 4 times? 3 times targeted for 3 PDs, 0 quarterback rating while targeted, and 1 pick. But the pick wasn't a target to him; it was tipped. And
he dropped 1 pick as well, didn't he? He should have had 2.
Yeah, but he was amongst it, and he was a factor, and he looked fit for purpose. He looked like a safety or a nickel in that system. Yeah. And I think if they're going to move Witherspoon around, they need a guy that goes, okay, well, you're now in. And DJ James can do it, I know, but Kobe Bryant is more physical and can mix it in run support.
Did you see the post-match with Kobe? He has put on.
He looks jacked. Yeah,
mass. He came out. And the first thing I looked at was his arms, and I was like, because when he first came out as a rookie, the first thing you saw from him was his jaw. That was it.
Yeah, he looked like a school kid. Yeah, he looked like a school kid.
And now that he a man, like he has put on some man mass. Like if they've obviously gone to him, safety is your position. And as I've said previously, he's not fast enough to be an elite corner in the league because he would just get burnt by some of these top flight wide receivers. But at safety, he can use his smarts, his technique. He's still going to be able to try and do the peanut punches. And if they've gone, just bulk up, make yourself more intimidating to put in those big hits. He's done that with aplomb.
Well, he didn't look like he was carrying too much extra weight or weight that he wasn't used to playing with when he was throwing himself about and whatnot. So that's really exciting.
It is. It's going to lead to a good safety battle. Yep. Especially when we do our episode where we do our squad builder. This is called where some arguments could come.
Yeah, for sure. Mike Morris's pass breakup. Did you see that? Or
textbook?
It's really good. It was really good. And I was saying to Charlie in our Discord that Mike Morris had really good grades for his coverage as an outside linebacker, and he very quickly reminded me that he was doing that about 30-40 kilos lighter. Oh no, it was pounds. Pounds, right? 40 pounds.
So he's because Charlie thought it was 300 pounds, but he got up to 300 pounds at the behest of Clint Hurt last season because he wanted to play a more interior D line. Whereas when you saw the video of Mike Mac first coming into the building, and the first person he sees is Mike Morris, he looks like he's cut some bulk.
Yeah,
so I wonder if he's hovering around about 280 now.
Well, I'm just trying to find out what he's currently listed at for this year because he'd have been weighed at the beginning of camp. Because I thought he looked lighter as well. Here we are, Mike Morris. Still listed here at 295, but he's not. He's not. I'd if I'm looking at him, if I'm he's on my visual scales, I'm saying somewhere between 285 and 280. No, 280 and 285.
I think so too. And Gary is with us as well. Looks around 280.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I think that's probably his fighting weight. I think that's where he's going to be more. He's going to be athletically. He's always athletically gifted, but he's going to be more athletically inclined to be able to move around that line. And as we saw,
it's a balance.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
and so
were there any more big plays you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, there's one, and I'm going to put a little negative spin on it. And we're back with Byron Murphy again.
Prophet of Doom. Here we go.
Yeah, so
just
the sack that nearly was that ended up falling to who was it who took it in the end?
Derek Hall.
Derek Hall.
I don't know if did it actually go down and check that?
Devere Leviston, I think, shared it with Devere Leviston. Or did Leviston get his own sack? I think Leviston might have got his own sack. But yeah, if I had one criticism of Byron Murphy in college, it's the fact that he would penetrate and harass quarterbacks. Didn't quite finish his dinner when he got there.
Mm-hmm.
And the snorting, I could see the steam coming out of the bull's nostrils. The foot was scraping the floor. He was charging the quarterback and was a little bit hasty. I think that was a weakness in his game in college. It showed itself a little bit with this incident because he looked dead to rights. The quarterback, he looked like he was in the dirt and somehow wriggled free, and he shouldn't be. So
never let go of a man until the job is done, until they're on the ground. That's the simplest thing. I say this to anyone I coach rugby to. Your job is not done until that person's on the ground. Whether they've got the ball or not, your job is to get them on the ground in defense. That's it. And I think it was for him. I think it was a little bit of youthful exuberance where he'd got through and obviously he'd had the guy and thought, that's it, play blown up, done. And just released. And his press conference at the end, it was like, yeah, it's a learning curve. Like, yeah, yes, it is. Next time, just hammer them to the ground, mate.
I think it's a reminder that the old learning curve is a curve he's still on. And I don't want to be too negative. It just is a widely known factor in his game that needed polish, and it's just a solid reminder that it's still a thing. But yeah, no, I wanted to mention that. It was still a big play, and it still only happened because he got there. So he's created the play, he just didn't see it home. So it's nothing to cry about.
Put a negative spin on my positives. And with that, let's get into positives and negatives. But before we do, as we said at the start of the pod, massive thanks to the UK Seahawkers for asking us to be their official podcast. We are honestly honoured. We are both proud supporters of UK Seahawkers, and you could be too. All you need to do, you can pay by PayPal. It's £12 for an individual membership, £20 for a family of up to 4 at the same address. Anyone outside the UK, it's still £5. You get some cool goodies, which I'll show you in the next slide. You get a chance to come to the annual meetup. This year is in Glasgow. The venue is still to be confirmed. So if anyone's watching or listening who knows an awesome venue where we can all meet up in Glasgow, let us know in the UK Seahawkers, or drop us a message, and then we will try and get that booked in for next year. You'll get 10% off the Pro Shop. and you get chances to win field passes to home games. Perfect. And this year's swag, cool. Throwback wristbands. There you go. You get your throwback patch. You get your name card, so your membership card, and this year's an RFD card. It's something different every single year. But just to put it out there as well, we do also support the German Seahawkers. We're not their official pod, but a lot of our listeners and friends are German Seahawkers. €15 to join, which is approximately £12.68 or $16.06. You'll get access to the tailgate zones, 10% off the pro shop, raffles and competitions, and their website can be translated into English with some fantastic articles. Bosh. Without further ado, let's have a look. So, as we said, it was 16-3. Positives and negatives we're going to get through. Before we do that, let's just look at how the scoreline went. So, first quarter, big old goose eggs. Nothing scored on either side. Second quarter, we got our 13 points. So the 2 touchdowns, minus 1 extra point, and the Chargers got their 1 field goal. 0 points again for either side in the third quarter. And then we got our field goal in the fourth quarter, and the Chargers scored zip, nil, nada, zilch. Fantastic. With that in mind, Mitch, positives? Two each, and then if anyone wants to chime in with any, we can pop them up at the end during the listeners and viewers' questions.
I'm sure Gary's got one, a positive and a negative for us. But first positive, I think, is the fact that we got to see all of our draft picks. We got to see some returns for last year's draft picks. And we got to see a decent amount of the depth chart, minus a few stars. And we didn't come out of it, as far as we know, with any injuries. I think that's the first thing. We've showcased the depth chart and not picked up any certainly no high profile ones or serious ones.
I've not seen anything reported. That is, for me, a fantastic thing, which is very rare, because usually we've got at least one injury through training camp or a preseason game. My first positive, I think we all know what it's going to be. Tackling. Some sure tackling, using your shoulder, getting yourself into fantastic position with great levers and exploding through the tackle. Ty Okada, that was a fantastic hit. I think I've
talking about the one where he met the guy after he received the ball, turned him and planted him.
Planted him straight on his back. And you know what really got me from a technical point of view, the fact he managed to plant him on his back, and it wasn't a sort of twisty spear potential job, which I thought was fantastic. And that went for absolutely everyone that played, barring that Byron Murphy, where he did tackle him, just didn't finish the job. I think there were some hits put in throughout the whole team. So it's evident it's something that they've actually worked on, like we did with Pete Carroll, and it's something they continue to work on. I can't remember who was saying they were working on it, but they said they work on it with pads, without pads. I'm going to guess that they use tackle dummies, everything, which is what you need in such a big contact sport. So that's my number one. Go on, Mitch.
I was just going to make a comment, and I can't remember the linebacking coach's name. I think it was Oliver Dott. Is it Oliver Dotty? Can't remember. It's not important anyway. I was just going to say that our linebacker coach is fairly renowned for being one of the industry's finest linebacker coaches. He's renowned for it, and with Mike Mac's background of being a linebacker coach, if you're headhunted by Mike Mac to be the specialist linebacker coach, it's a great vouch. And if this is the impact, why did we not do this earlier? Honestly,
Oliver Dotty.
There you go. I was right. Yeah, cool.
Weird. You get a linebacker coach who actually wants to coach linebackers how to do the job, which is just hit people and do well in coverage. Whilst we're talking about linebackers, Tyrese Knight, as advertised, flies around the field, gets to the ball. Just, I think he's lacking that vet savvy at the moment where he's going to be able to diagnose better. But I was quite impressed with him as well.
Yeah, we got exactly what we thought we'd get from Tyrese Knight. I think if you knew anything about him coming out of college, you knew that he was athletically sound, high energy, good motor, solid tackling technique, slightly exposed at times because his enthusiasm was a greater factor than his instincts, let's put it that way, or his experience. And I think that showed up. All of that showed up. Solid, like you say, he made big plays. He got exposed, but that was such a small percentage that it just didn't matter. And it's a great opportunity for him to sort of blood himself. So yeah, Jerome Baker is just an outrageous upgrade at this point.
I just want to make a really, really quick apology to anyone who's listening to this. If you hear like water glugging through my microphone, that is because my office is currently the temperature of sun. That's it. And my hay fever's playing up, so I'm trying to kill it all by drinking as much water as possible, but it might come through on my mic, so I apologize. But yeah, sorry, Mitch, carry on as I tried desperately not to sweat through my t-shirt.
No worries. My second positive is going to be about second chances. The second chances that have clearly been afforded by a fresh set of eyes on some guys that have not quite flourished. And we touched on Kobe Bryant, who's a great example of that. You know, he kind of stagnated a little bit on the roster, suddenly fell between positions. He looked last night like he'd found himself a bit. Can now establish himself on the roster, assuming he makes the 53. And the coaches have obviously got some belief in him being able to do that role. The same could be said for Laviska Shenault, who we've given a real chance to. Looked fine with the kick return. Looked fit for purpose there. We got him in space out wide, and he became a real problem. I feel like Eskridge is probably 1 foot out the door with how well they utilize Laviska Shenault. There's another person who is getting a second chance and looks to be the third chance probably for him because he's moved on. Whereas his second move after he was drafted, right? So, and there's a number of those. I mean, Trey Brown did that last year for us, and then now we're seeing players like Ty Okada center stage getting reps. We saw it with the wide receiver team. Derek Young out there looking like an absolute stud. Cody White,
looking like DK Metcalf light.
Isak Winston as well. There's names. What I'm saying is, there's names there that have been on the roster or on the practice squad for a long time, and they were center stage, being given chances by a coaching team that were just getting to know the bodies they have in the building. There's no pre-judgment of this guy hasn't been on a roster for us before, so he's automatically not going to get a spot, or he's unlikely to get a spot. It's just, well, we're not playing Tyler or DK, and JSN's going to get 1 quarter. So go out there and show us what you can do.
Everyone else, exactly.
So
also,
brilliant.
JSN blocking. He's been spending time with Jake Bobo, I see.
That was such a good block. Yeah. He just didn't see it. I to some extent, I don't. Was it a safety or a linebacker that he blocked? It may have been a DB. They weren't expecting it, so when he planted that shoulder, I think there was a little bit of like off balance, caught out by surprise when it happened. So JSN surprise package in the blocking. I love that.
It's just adding different strings to his bow, my friend. My final positive before we move on to the negatives and then the questions from the viewers. We only allow 3 points. Now, only allowing 3 points means many things. A, the Chargers weren't really up to scratch, but I'm just going to discount that. B, our defense was actually very good fundamentally to not allow anything to come in. I mean, fair play, we're going against quarterbacks like Easton Stick, and who was the backup that they had? I can't remember. Oh, they had three, didn't they?
Max Duggan.
They had Duggan, and then
Max.
they had Perez.
That's it.
Who came in.
Yeah.
But even with that, when you think once our starting group had left the field, we didn't let them score any touchdowns. People like John Rattigan, man possessed. As soon as he came on that field, he was gunning for everyone. And for me,
do you think
great to see.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. And do you think that kind of the fact that the personnel didn't really affect the Chargers that much? Like when we rotated out, there wasn't suddenly like a floodgate that had been opened. Does that suggest as much to you as it does to me about the fact that the structure and the foundation of this new system is just because we've not installed some advanced version of this. This is ground level of this defense. Does that just show you that fundamentally this is fit for purpose, and the players have grasped all the way through the depth chart? They've grasped the concept.
Yeah, 100%. With both hands, I think they've grasped it and gone, actually, to start with, we had this mad scientist come in who just threw all these different terms and looks at us and, movement. But I think they've all started to get it now. And I think that is really exciting. So that was my final positive. Shall we move on to... We're not a negative pod. We like to try and keep it upbeat, apart from the Prophet of Doom that hosts this with me.
Yeah, that is not me, by the way.
Pod. Don't look up at me, mate. It's not like a Brady Bunch. Right, negatives. Who wants to start with a negative? Do you want me to?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah.
0 points scored in the second half. Well, 0 touchdowns. Because we got our 3 points. We got our field goal in the fourth quarter. But I just found it a bit... I think that first half showed where the drop-off is in talent.
Yeah. There was a lack of fluidity, I think, in the second half. I think when we did get going, there was a few key moments where throws were overthrown, or someone had missed, or the quarterback had missed a read that was open, and I think that lack of fluidity has kind of cost us on some of our drives. I think if we'd seen one quarterback used all the way through, which I know is not going to happen in a preseason game, but if we'd stuck with one for the full game, I do think the drop off in the second half wouldn't have been as steep, and I don't think it would have mattered which one it was. Actually, just not changing it, but that'll never happen.
Yeah, but that was my sort of thing. It's a standard preseason game, isn't it? As soon as all the backups or potential starters get carted off and all the bin juice comes on, then the standard's always going to drop. For anyone who doesn't know the term bin juice is that, as it describes, that stuff at the bottom of the bin that no one really wants usually gets chucked out at the end of it. So that is a player who doesn't really play very often. It's a great phrase, isn't it? But yeah, it's that player who is fighting for a roster spot, will probably be a perpetual practice squad player, and that's kind of what we had in that second half, and it showed, which is a bit of a shame.
Okay, well, my
negative.
My negative was going to be about the fact that AJ Barner had. I was going to mention AJ Barner sort of falling down the tight end sort of pecking order, but I have dug up a little stat on the fly here before commenting on this. And actually, do you know which tight end out of all of them had the most snaps last night?
Westover.
Correct. I should have said out of Brady Russell and AJ Barner, actually. But between AJ Barner and Brady Russell, AJ Barner was out there more, but he just hadn't. We didn't see him get targeted. They didn't draw up a play for him, which is mad, really, because the amount of time we had in possession on offense, you'd think we could get the ball into everyone's hands, but we just used him as a run block and an extension of the O-line, and that's fine because that is the fundamental of what he does. But there's a bit more to his game than that. We know that there is, and he wasn't the designated receiver on those packages. Brady Russell was.
Yeah.
So maybe that is more the case. Maybe it's not the case that he's far down the depth chart. It's more they like throwing the ball to Pharaoh Brown, Noah Fant, Brady Russell before they start targeting AJ Barner. Maybe that's the true.
Maybe it's the fact he's a rookie as well, and they're like, just focus on blocking for now, and then we'll go from there.
Wait for his time.
As we said in the Discord, Brown. I think I put it on RX as well. Brown, Barner, very much the same type of player. Brown has the experience. Barner has the hands and better catching ability, in my opinion. I think we might see more Barner and maybe Westover in the next 2 games because those two are both fighting for a spot.
Yeah, agree.
And as we said,
I hope so anyway.
More chance of keeping Barner because if we cut him, he'll get picked up. However, Westover we might be able to stash because he is a Grubb tight end. And I think that's probably why he got more reps yesterday. Because he is the tight end that Grubb knows can run in his offense.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay. That was my point, really.
Okay.
It was a negative. The negative was that AJ Barner wasn't getting his chance to sort of shine. But I've had to back out of that because after checking the snap counts, he was relied upon more than the current perceived tight end of 3.
My second negative isn't really a negative for us. My second negative is SoFi Stadium. Sharing a ground, and it is evident now that the Chargers are the ginger-headed stepchild of LA. They are the Harry Potter kept in a cupboard, only let out to do bits and bobs. The attendance was woeful, if you ask me. Just looking around, even when I was having a look, like some of the executive boxes and stuff, they'd cut the price. So it was like 20% of the usual price. And people still went, no, I'm good. I know it's pre-season and not everyone gets hyped up for it, but some of us who have been crying out for football would kill for that. And the stadium itself I think it's just ugly as sin. I'll be very honest. Don't like it.
Sounds like
at all.
Not a touch jealous of that fancy high-tech stadium, are you?
No, you know what? I'm really not. I'm really not. It's one of those. Have you ever played Madden and it's like, welcome to SoFi Stadium, and they do that whole like pan in across a lake, and you're like, and you get in there and you're like, scoreboard is really, really weird. It's the whole thing. I just don't like it. Call me traditionalist. I don't know.
Fair enough.
That's the only other negative I could get. I know, Mitch, you've probably got a more intelligent one than I have. I just don't like that stadium. Every single time I see it, it just gives me the ick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to say one thing. It's not necessarily a negative from the performance, but just some more of a worry. And Charlie had mentioned it with Maffei, the fact that he played the entire game. But realistically, for all of us 12s, we probably look at Maffei as number 2 behind Chen and Nwosu. But the fact that he was out there playing the entirety shows me that they're still trying to work out where he fits in the system. They wanted to take an extended look. It worries me slightly because I see him as really integral to what we do. But then maybe the coaches don't. Maybe the coaches see Draymond Jones coming off the edge a lot. Maybe they're looking to bring corners or safeties off the edge more, or linebackers off the edge. Yeah, Derek Hall had an outstanding game, but I don't want to talk about him here because we're talking about negative stuff now. I don't want to be positive here.
Yeah.
Don't want any positive sneaking into my rant.
Yeah.
No, but Boye Mafe is someone I really want to see have a great year. Doesn't look good for him if he's being forced to play 3 full preseason games. Not that I think he's a cut candidate or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, but just the confidence in him or confidence in what he can be in the system doesn't quite seem to be locked in yet.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, and that's it for our positives and negatives then. We'll keep it to 2 because we've not got long left. But before we do anything else, we're going to get to your questions or comments. Now, this is something that we will do for every live pod we do. If you are watching, you can by all means chime in with whatever you want to say. We will put it up, providing you're not just going in on someone. Gary, as people have heard us say today, has been a top contributor. So I'll give you a virtual high five, Gary. Thank you very much, sir.
Slap.
I might. It's a very Alan Partridge of you, that. Gary, his comments, less for question, more comments. So we have great defensive play and proper tackle, and that was regarding the Dotson play. I completely agree with you there, mate. I think we've all said that about the tackling. Long may it continue. And then we have positives from Gary. Thought overall the team felt connected, disciplined, and physical. Love the physicality. You know what? I'll agree with that. I liked in defense. In rugby terms, we run sort of the pendulum where your wingers and your fullback interchange. So it's a constant movement, but it's always connected. And I saw that a lot in our defensive play here, where it was if one person moved, the other person was then sort of moving in like sort of a sliding scale tandem type thing. It was really nice to see them covering the ground. But yeah, completely agree with you there, Gary. Oh, and we've got negatives now from Gary as well. Inconsistent O-line in the second half of the running game. Showed lack of O-line depth.
I think you can add protection in from the bookends as well in there. I think Stone Forsyth and McClendon Curtis did not look like serviceable tackles in the NFL last night.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. We said in our O-line and D-line pod, Stone Forsyth, we didn't even mention him in the depth chart, which says a lot. But I think he's playing his way out of Seattle. McClendon Curtis seems to be one of those who is fantastic in camp against his mates, but put him in a live game scenario and his bum all puckers and he doesn't really know what to do. But there's still 2 preseason games left, so hopefully he'll come good. With that, we are very much done, I believe, Mr. Mitchell. I would like to say a massive thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you are a first-time viewer or returning viewer, thank you so much. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all those other podcasting places. Follow us on X. Where are we? X, Insta. We've got a Facebook group as well. You'll see us posting the UK Seahawks quite often. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share us. That helps us massively. We are a non-profit pod. Anything that does come to us goes back into the pod, or we're hopefully going to start working with a charity soon as well, which I need to get back onto. And then we'll be making contributions towards them as well. So anything that does come to us will go straight back out, because we're not in this for the money, we're in it for the love. There you go.
Fair.
With that, Mitch, your baby. There you go.
Discord, come and join. Come and get involved. It was really nice to get back to game day action and have ongoing conversation, play by play in the Discord. And this morning it spilled over, and there's plenty of people catching up with the game and sharing their takes. So come and get involved in the discussion with us on Discord. Gary's in there. Gary's everywhere. Absolutely loves it.
He is. Yeah, the Discord is available pinned post on our X. We will be a lot more lively on X. You'll see us on Instagram, X. We'll be putting in different graphics, player breakdowns, anything we can think of. And as always, we are the 12 Talk podcast by 12s, for 12s, and with 12s. And when we say with 12s, we mean you. If you'd like to appear, hit us up on our socials, slide into our DMs, drop us an email. Our email address is in the information section below. And you could come on here with us and you could let us know your thoughts as well. But without further ado, Mitch, shall we finish with a hearty go Hawks and thank God football's back?
Yep. Thank God football's back. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.